Welcome. Welcome to Book Passage. I'm Elaine Petricelli, and I am a former teacher. And oh, how I wish that I had had this book when I was teaching. On those nights when I didn't know if I could make myself go back to school the next day, it would have been so helpful. But I'm not really here to introduce Rafe. I'm here to welcome you and thank you for all that you do for children and our community. And I see so many great teachers in our audience, and it makes me very, very happy. I have, in fact, I see coming in right now a woman who has taught 3 of my 4 children, and the fact that they can write a sentence is because Ms. Holland would not let them do otherwise. I want to tell you a little bit about our co-sponsor, 10,000 Degrees. I am really proud that 10,000 Degrees and Book Passage partner on events of value, but I'm especially proud of everything that 10,000 Degrees does. 10,000 Degrees has well over 600 students going to college this fall. These are students who would not have had that opportunity otherwise. 10,000 Degrees does not start with a student usually in their junior year of high school. This group starts in 3rd grade, making college not only something far off, but something real, something you can do, your family, it can happen. I have met students who have graduated from college and gone on to amazing careers who would have never, ever considered going to college. I don't know if those of you who go to scholarship night know that we meet some of the most amazing people. Last time, I will never forget the young woman who was living in her car when 10,000 Degrees realized and changed her life. One of the board members of 10,000 Degrees, who is also a school principal, Pepe Gonzalez, is extremely inspiring what he has done and what 10,000 Degrees has made possible for him. I want to thank the 10,000 Degrees people who are here, and I'll probably miss them, but Peter Lee, thank you for all you do, and Seth Goddard, you are the one who got these people here today, and I am so grateful. But most of all, I am grateful for the President and CEO who has brought 10,000 Degrees to the place where 84% or more of the students who go to college through 10,000 Degrees graduate. And I can tell you nationwide, it's about 20, a little over 20%. This is an amazing organization, so I'm so proud. Kim is going to introduce Rafe for us today.
First, I always take this opportunity to thank Elaine and her team and Book Passage. Elaine, you are a real teacher. You have brought tremendous stories to our community over the years, full of truth and imagination. I used to take my daughters here when they were young to meet with your staff to find the greatest books. So I thank you for all of that and for the partnership over the many years. Let me say it's a real pleasure to be able to introduce the author today, because his topic is so germane to the work that we do every day at 10,000 Degrees. Our mission is all about creating educational equity and helping students who are most in need to be able to access and to complete higher education, and then to go on and to positively impact their own communities and to change the world. Our commitment is all about helping our students accrue the same equitable educational outcomes as some of their more affluent counterparts. And interestingly enough, we're here in Marin, one of the most affluent counties in our state, in our nation, perhaps in the world, and yet our students coming from low-income households don't have near the chance as their more affluent counterparts. They don't have the meaningful summer experiences. They don't have the after-school support. They can't afford private tutoring and test prep. They don't stand a chance unless we stand behind them and lift them up and give them everything they need to get to the same finish line. And then, along with this, they don't have access to all the great teachers because we underpay them. Then we divest in their system. We take the resources out of their classroom, and we say to them, do more, close the achievement gap, raise the achievement level, and now bridge the growing income inequalities in our society by not educating all of our students. And then our teachers give up. Rafe, I have not finished your book, but I will share that I have read several chapters. And there is one message from your book that speaks loudly and directly to all of our hearts at 10,000 degrees, and it is so germane to what's happening this week. And it is on page 109 of the advanced reader's copy, and it says, sadly, some teachers will give up. People who once cared deeply throw up their hands and in frustration ask, what am I supposed to do? This kid doesn't stand a chance. There is often, unfortunately, truth in such tragic predictions. And then Rafe starts the next paragraph by saying, please, don't give up. It's not over. This week and next week, hundreds of our students from the summer, from 10,000 Degrees will be attending multiple college campuses throughout the Bay Area. And I would bet that many of us here today, if we didn't know that the support that they were getting, would bet that given the barriers and the lack of access they have, that they don't stand a chance. But there is a message that we repeat day after day in our office, Rafe, and I'm so glad that you've illuminated this in your book. And it's loudly and clearly through all of our programs, and it is the key message at every closing ceremony, at every institute that's been there for the past 14 years, and it's in our DNA. And it's this: no matter what, no matter the circumstances, no matter, we must never, ever give up. So in introducing Rafe today, a very esteemed author, somebody who has achieved such accolades over the many years, you are an amazing teacher and you have taught us so much. I want to thank you as part of the introduction for illuminating the meaning to us of never giving up and underscoring its fundamental importance to nurturing all of our children, the beautiful minds and their hearts that are filled with nothing but goodness. So we can't give up, and I thank you for illuminating that and carrying this message to our communities and to communities across the country. On that note, I introduce Rafe Esquith. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. I really appreciate your time. It means a lot to me. I'm glad, this is the first introduction I've had, and I'm so glad that did not announce this long list of all these ridiculous awards that I've won. And I always tell people that it's nice to meet the Dalai Lama and the President, it's nice to meet the Queen and all those people. But what I always tell people when I speak is what I'm proud of is I'm about to start my 31st year as a classroom teacher. This book, Real Talk, almost wrote itself. I get thousands of letters from teachers, and I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but I think you all know this. Good teachers are becoming an endangered species. And every day you look on the internet, and I just get letters every day. Rafe, I want to show you my resignation letter, and I want to tell you why I'm resigning. And these are not whiners and complainers. These are good teachers. These are people that have put in 10, 15, 20 years and successfully made a difference, but they...
To be heard.
It's never been a problem before. They are very, very frustrated. And it's not because their kids are tough to deal with. They've always had that problem. It's not because if they don't have the right classroom supplies. It's never been a problem. It's the system itself that is starting to crush teachers. Anybody been to Common Core training yet? I mean, it is an Orwellian nightmare. It's just ridiculous. And there's a bit of joke going around among teachers now that those who can teach and those who can't make the rules for teachers. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. So I've written this book in 3 parts because I really wanted to address all the good teachers and maybe lift our spirits a little bit. So I'd like to ask, is there anybody here who's a new teacher, less than 3 or 4 years? Okay, if the rest of you could just ignore me for a minute. The most important advice I have for new teachers, because I'm always asked, I'm not exaggerating, I have 1,000 new teachers visit me a year in room 56 in Los Angeles. And I always ask, if you could give me one piece of advice, what would you tell me? So if you haven't figured this out yet, new teachers, you're gonna have bad days. You're gonna have horrible days. And it's not because you're bad. You've prepared your lessons and you've consulted with experts and you've taught with enthusiasm and you've tried to reach every child and you show respect for everybody, and you still have these horrible days. And you will go home and you will cry and think that maybe law school would have been a better option, that sort of thing. And then to try and steel your resolve, you put on the latest Hollywood movie about teachers, and the teacher saves everybody. And everybody passes the test and they win the big game and you cue the music and you feel like crap because that's not you. I wrote this book to let young teachers know that I'm really good at what I do. I'm a very good teacher. And I fail every day. And I have bad days all the time. I can't even tell you, and I wrote about many of them in this book. It's a real book. I've written about kids that have so devastated me I haven't slept for months. There's a line in my book, teaching is painful, get used to it. Because I don't know any good teacher, I see the heads nodding up and down, who hasn't had painful days. Young teachers, when you have your bad days, you are not a bad teacher. This is a hard job. I am trying to teach my kids to be honorable in a world where they are surrounded by dishonor. I am trying to teach them to be decent and kind when they are surrounded not only by indecency, but indecency that is celebrated in our media. And people laugh at it. That's really tough. I'm teaching kids growing up in a world where they believe that the Kardashians are more important than people trying to cure cancer. So when you have your bad days, you must understand this. If you don't give up, and you try to learn from your many mistakes, and you realize that you're surrounded by heroic teachers who don't get their name in the paper, who don't get to stand up at bookstores, but who every day are going in changing lives, and you talk about your bad days with these heroes, your bad days get better. You do get better, and that's what I love about being a teacher. I'm a better teacher now than I was 15 years ago. I will be better 5 years from now, because I try to learn from my mistakes. So those first 5 years in the book, it's called Once Upon a Time, you're gonna get your routine down, you're gonna get through your bad days, but most importantly, the second part of this book, which is called Growing Up, I think is the most important part of this book. Because when you get to that crossroads, and you've got it down, you're trying to raise your family, you've got to leave school because you've got kids, I got it. Are you just going to phone it in for the next 20 years, or are you going to get better? And I have some tips in this book, and I'll just share a couple with you that I've used that I hope you'll think about to make your own classrooms better. Here's one. For those of you who don't know, I teach in a school where 92% of the kids are below the poverty level. Nobody speaks English as a first language. And here's the statistic that kills me. Only 32% of the kids at my elementary school finished high school. That either it either means that we've got the stupidest kids on the planet, or the system has failed. And everybody in this room knows the answer to that one. And when I got there almost 30 years ago, I was not going to be a part of that equation. I had to figure out how to do things differently. The Hobart Shakespeareans, as they're known, work insanely hard. And my kids work hard even when I'm not there. If I leave the room to pee or something, everybody keeps working. And people say, why are they so committed? A couple of reasons, but here's something you can use in your classroom. If you ask, I have a chapter called Keeping It Real. If you ask most kids in school who are doing math or writing an essay, why are you doing this? What will they say? My teacher told me to. It's an assignment. It's due Friday. My favorite answer, by the way, sometimes they say, I don't know why I'm doing this. Hey, at least it's an honest answer. I teach my kids a different answer. If you ask a Hobart Shakespearean, why are you doing this? They will look up at you and say, if I learned this skill, my life just got better. That's the fun of this class. Feel free to get mad at me. I don't care about the test at the end of the year. I don't. I'm going to teach you, I tell my students, real skills that you will be using for the rest of your life. And that is a theme that we have every day. And I'll give you an example. Every morning we play baseball. Baseball is a religion in my classroom. If you were to ask the kids, what are you getting out of playing baseball? Here's what they would say. Well, first of all, you gotta focus. You cannot hit and catch baseball if you're not concentrating. And then I'll ask them, well, tell me in real life when you have to focus. And the kids will say, well, you gotta focus to drive a car. You gotta focus if you're a dentist. You have to focus if you're an accountant. So this really has nothing to do with baseball. We are practicing concentrating, because if you can concentrate, your life will be better. And then I'll say, well, what else are we learning? And the kids will say, well, we're working on our teamwork here. You can't win a baseball game by yourself. You have teammates. And then I'll say, well, in real life, when do you have to play well with others? And the kids will say, well, if you're in business, you got to work with others. If you work in a bookstore, you have a team of people here. Nobody runs this place by themselves. And if you can't get along with people who are different from you, have different points of view, you can't work in that bookstore. We're working on teamwork when we play baseball. And then I'll say, what else are we learning? And they'll say, well, you have to be organized. You cannot win a baseball game without organization. You have to know your batting order. You have to know who's playing what positions. You have to know where you put your equipment after the game is over, so it'll be useful to you when you want to find it tomorrow morning. Why? Because if you're organized, your life will be better. And every lesson I teach all year long, we have this conversation all day long. It's not the Hollywood movie. It's not that on day 2 the kids say, I get it. I understand relevance now. It doesn't work that way. It's just a conversation we have all day long. Another strategy I use in this book I'd like you to consider, there's a chapter called Middleman. There are 3 kinds of kids in the world in my mind, and I define my kids at the beginning of the year. Kid 1, Kid 2, Kid 3. Kid 1 is the gift from God. Hi, Rafe. I like school. And I like you. Oh, and by the way, I'm really smart. I'm really good at school, and my parents like you too. By the way, my parents just stopped by the principal's office to thank him for running such a great school and for having a great teacher like you. Is there anything you want me? Oh, I meant to tell you, I got a note from my mom. She runs a dry cleaning service. If you ever need your shirts done, we'll take care of it. And at the end of the year, Kid 1 does great in school, and people say, oh, you did a great job, Rafe. And I'm like, anybody with this kid. Any of you ever have a Kid 1 in your class? You know, it's wonderful. But sadly, on the other side of the room is Kid 3. Kid 3 is F you and everybody who looks like you. I hate you. My parents hate you. And my 2 uncles run the local MS chapter of MS-18 gang. And if you ever give me homework, you are effing dead. And they're going to come and piss on your grave. I've had those students too. Most teachers spend 95% of their time, and it's understandable, with Kid 1 or Kid 3. You spend time with Kid 1 because it's fun. Thank God they get it. Thank you for raising your hand when I ask a question. Or you spend time with Kid 3 because they're driving you insane, destroying your classroom and your life. But I spend 95% of my time with Kid 2. They're average. He's not the fastest runner, she's not the most dazzling little girl, and because they don't make trouble, they just get passed through the system. And these are capable kids if you pay attention to them. So here's a fun thing you can do. I do this every year. On the first day of school, I go home and I write down my class list. All the kids I forget, those are the ones I pay attention to for the whole year. Because who do we remember after the first day? The real smart ones and the ones who gave you trouble. I can't tell you how many kids have told me, Rafe, you believed in me before I did. You were the one who looked into my eyes and said, you're a really good writer. Anybody ever tell you that? Well, you are. You're going to be really good. I can't wait to see the next thing you write. And those kids get so excited that someone has noticed. They start behaving like kid 1. And then the kid 3s have nowhere to go with their negativity because they are so outnumbered by the rest of the class. Another strategy I have in this book, sorry if this offends you, these people who say leave no child behind, that's absurd. I leave children behind all the time. Absolutely. If you are playing a baseball game and you throw a bat at somebody or tell somebody they suck, you're done. You're not playing in the game this day. You can play tomorrow, but you're done for the day. And in this world where we say every kid has to get on the bus, every kid has to participate, that's absolute nonsense. We're trying to get the kids ready for life. Life doesn't work that way. You have to earn things. You know, our Constitution talks about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You're not guaranteed happiness. You know, you hear the wonderful work that 10,000 Degrees is doing. They're opening up all these doors, but the kids still have to walk through. And the kids must understand that. We will open the door for you. We will bend over backwards, but you've got to meet us halfway. And if when I have kids who don't want to do that, that's absolutely fine. I do not spend every second of my life trying to convince them because I've got 34 other good kids willing to walk through the door. So I encourage you, don't waste all your time on that one incorrigible youngster. Not all children can be saved. Should we give up on the kid? Of course not. Should we spend every day giving them opportunities, encouraging them? Yes, but not 50% of your day. Not when there's a kid too quietly waiting for inspiration who's ready to run through those doors that we open. I'm sorry if that's harsh truth, but we have a bunch of teachers here. Anybody here honestly think they've saved every kid they've ever worked with? Of course not. You know, I always tell young teachers, doctors can tell you not to smoke, but if you keep smoking and get cancer, we don't blame the doctor. And kids have to hear this message. So, the other thing that I want to point out to all the teachers here, if you're feeling bad about teaching, when you have those days, and I heard the lady who introduced me, it's a very good point she makes. When you have those days where you think, I'm not making a difference, you don't know that. Many times your lessons kick in 30 years later by presenting them. I get letters from kids from 30 years ago. Kids who I never thought I made a difference. Kids who did not hug me at the end of the year, hold hands and sing Kumbaya with me. And yet they write these letters that they're happy and they're married and they're doing, I was just at an event last night. I met a kid I haven't seen in 40 years. He brought his wife and 3 children. He's doing great. And here's the other part of the conversation I want you to consider. You know, the 10,000 Degrees with their push to college, and listen, I'm Mr. Push to College, but let's also have a conversation with the kids that number one, you don't have to go to college. I have many very happy, successful students who didn't want to go, who are mechanics and machinists, and who, by the way, make a lot more money than I do. A lot more. What I tell the kids is I want you to have the opportunity to go to college, and I want to show you what college is, and if you're interested, I can show you what it is and how to get there. But we also have to let the kids know that it's not for everybody. There are kids who want to do all kinds of different kinds of technical jobs who are fantastic kids. So let's make that part of the conversation too. So I think the reason I wrote Real Talk is to pick everybody's spirits up, because where are my young teachers? If you are waiting for society to thank you, I don't think it's ever going to happen. I've never seen it happen. I don't care who's in office, they talk about, oh, we care about the children, we care about education. No, they don't. They don't. If you look at what our country spends money on, you know, we're really good at killing people, and we're really good at waging war, but we don't value our students, we don't. So the only way I get my sustenance is from my fellow teachers, who I love working with, because I work with some great people at Hobart, and my students. And to illustrate this point of how little we're valued, over 20 years ago, I won the award as the National Teacher of the Year. And it was very exciting because they said, we'd like you to give a speech in another state in front of Teach for America. And I thought, wow, they're flying me somewhere? And they paid me $200. Oh, that was a lot of money. That was amazing to me. And they flew me to the city, this really happened, And they took me to this beautiful home. It was palatial. And I thought, wow, I'm staying here tonight. And they walked me through the home, and I'm looking at all these beautiful bedrooms. And they kept walking and walking out the back of the house into their garage, and they put me on a 4-foot cot under a ping pong table with fresh cobwebs hanging down in my face. And I lay there that night, this really happened, and I was thinking, I'm the National Teacher of the Year. I wonder where the guy is who finished second when he was doing it. And I thought, but it's gotta get better. So, just to show you, just last year, I was flown to a city, and I won't say the city, and I was dropped at the airport, and a pickup truck picked me up. It was very dark. And this pickup truck was covered in empty Burger King wrappers that I sat in mustard and ketchup. They took me to this really dark street, and I'm looking out the window. You don't know me well. I am not a high maintenance guy. Give me a glass of water. I don't need blue M&Ms on the podium. I'm really low maintenance. And I was looking to see if they had, like, was there a Motel 6 or a Holiday Inn? Where am I staying? Just darkness. And I got out of the car and I said, sir, and they just drove away. So I'm walking down this really dark path, really dark. I finally find a glass window, and there's a handwritten sign, push buzzer for entrance. So I push this buzzer, the door clicks, I walk into this really dark hallway, and there's an old woman, I mean old, in a wheelchair, pushing her chair. And then I found my way to a lobby where I saw a security guard asleep at a desk. And it was about 10 o'clock at night, and I said, excuse me, sir, huh? I said, I don't know if I'm in the right place. I'm a teacher, and I'm supposed to be speaking for some. He said, yeah, you're the teacher. Yeah, I was expecting you. And I said, well, is this a hotel? And he said, no, it's a retirement home. And I said, this is a retirement home? And he said, it's a retirement home. And I said, this is a retirement home? And he said, but it's a really nice retirement home. And I was brought to a room about the size of, well, about the size of the stage I'm standing on, with a little cot, but there were no cobwebs, and there was an apple and a Coke. So we're making progress. I think the point is, we're never going to be valued. I'm sorry to be so negative. We're not. We must value each other. One of the reasons I've been really lucky as a teacher, and I've written about this in one of the chapters called All for One and One for All, I have found a team of people around me who are so good at what they do. I am surrounded by expert, professional educators, people who show up on time, show up with enthusiasm, because here's the thing I want you to think about. If you're frustrated with the system, can you imagine how the kids are feeling? What's it like to be 14 years old now and going to a place where the school is telling you that the regurgitation of facts on a standardized test is supposed to reflect real scholarship and thinking? If it's bad for us, imagine what it's like for those students. So I ask all teachers, let's not go to the retirement home. Let's not retire. We are needed more now than ever. The opening part of this book points out that my wife needs a new kitchen, and I have figured out with my salary that if I can teach for 470 more years, we will have enough money for her new kitchen. So I want you to know that my first 30 years have been really great. My next 470 will be better, and I really appreciate that you've come, and I love, this is my favorite part, Q&A. If anybody has questions about anything, I'm a real straight shooter. Does anybody have anything they'd like to ask about teaching or career planning or anything on your mind? Yes, sir.
I know that you work in LA Unified.
I do.
I work in Richmond, West Contra Costa and Richmond across the bay. And what is your take on what's been happening with corporate reform in your district?
With corporate reform, my problem with corporate reform, there's a lot of good people and everything, but the problem is these people don't teach. They could not teach my class to save their lives, so I rarely listen to them. Most of the people, and here's the thing on all the reform movement, they want teachers held accountable. I don't know any teacher who doesn't want to be held accountable. We all feel fine about that. They want to assess the children. I want to assess my students. When I teach my kids to multiply, I give them a test. But I also tell them, why are you taking this test? I want to see if you can do it. What's going to happen if you don't do well? It just means I'm going to show you again. That's all it means. But the reform movement is telling these kids that this is your whole life on the line. That's absurd. And by the way, as I write in this book, standardized tests are not standardized. They are administered by teachers. There are cheating scandals all over the country. So even if you believe in this process, the data we're looking at isn't even accurate. So even if you believe it doesn't work. Do I think we should assess our kids? Of course. Do I think teachers should be assessed and evaluated? Yes. Do I think unions can be a problem sometimes? Yes. Do I think we should get rid of our bad teachers? Absolutely. But by basing it on a test at the end of the year, that's absurd. Who was the guy, maybe somebody remembers, there was a Supreme Court justice who said, I don't know what pornography is, but I know it when I see it. I think people should be coming into our classrooms all the time, and I don't just mean the principal. Fellow teachers, parents. Walk me into a classroom 3 or 4 times a week, I'll tell you who's a good teacher. That's what I want to see in evaluation. But the reform movement, if you've noticed it, most of the people in that movement make a lot of money. Millions and millions of dollars. I make $42,000 a year. The money that I make from these books, it all goes back into my class. So I, like in All the President's Men, when I decide who I'm listening to, follow the money. I listen to the people who aren't getting rich off our educational woes. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Dave. I'm a public high school teacher in San Francisco.
Yay!
My question is about unions. Like, what do you tell teachers to think, or what do you think about our unions? It's just like, I don't even know what to say.
I think unions are a necessary evil. I've worked for 4 principals. The guy I work for now, best principal I've ever had. I will follow my sword for this man. He's amazing, and he always puts his students and teachers first. You always hear about teachers who don't have their back, the principal doesn't have their back. If a parent gives a teacher problems in our school now, they're going to deal with my principal, and he's tough. It's wonderful. But I worked for 2 average principals, and I worked for a horrible principal. I'm glad the union was there when she was there, because she went after teachers absolutely unfairly. And would you agree with me? There are bad teachers in the system, fair enough. But she went after people just because they were different. I mean, these people were good, they were making connections. They just sometimes weren't between the lines. And rather than working with them or saying, look, I like what you're doing, let me show you how we can make it even more, she just stomped on people. And the union stopped her, and I was glad they were there. I describe the union as a necessary evil. But do I always agree with my union? Usually I disagree with them. But I am a member. We struck in 1989. I'm the first guy on the line. I believe in the concept of union, even if we don't always execute it well. Anything else on anybody's mind? Yes?
I have your levels 1 through 6 on my mind. And
Everybody talks about the 6 levels, yes.
I just wanted you to talk about the levels, the Atticus Finch
Sure.
concept. Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, on the first day of school, I teach my kids Lawrence Kohlberg's 6 levels of moral development. And we don't have time to go into the whole thing, but there is one very important point I want to make. For those of you who don't know, I teach the kids that level 1 thinking is you do things in school because you're afraid you're going to be punished if you don't. Level 2 thinkers do things for a reward, like I'm doing my math because I want an A. Level 3 thinkers do things to please people. Hey, Rafe, look at my art project. Is it good? And I always laugh at the kids and go, why are you asking me? It's your art project. What do you think of it? Leave me out of it. Level 4 thinking, which is very popular in a lot of teacher books, we do things because it's the rule. We put 500 rules on the wall, and you have to do your math because Rule 62 says them. I don't have any rules on my walls. Level 5 is I do things because I'm considerate of other people. So we're quiet in a hotel room, not because of a rule or we're going to get in trouble, but we're aware that there are people in the other room and we respect them. And the highest level, level 6, is we do things because I have a personal code of behavior. And I want to point out the best example of level 6 that ever happened in my classroom, ever, is I had a kid named Felix who was known in my classroom for being a very funny actor, but he also had gorgeous, long blonde hair. Gorgeous. And he used to visit me. He would come back from middle school, and one day when he was in the 8th grade, he came back completely bald, shaven. I mean shiny. And all the kids were like, whoa! And I laughed and I said, Felix, that's quite a fashion statement. You know, did you run out of shampoo? What's going on? And he said, no, there was a kid in the school, in his middle school, who had cancer. And she was going through chemotherapy, and her hair fell out, so she was wearing a hat or a scarf, but the other kids would pull off the scarf and point at her and go, you're gonna die, and laugh. Well, you know what kids can do. So he said, I gave her my hair. That's the 6th level. And when I said, was this like a school project? He said, no. This is who this kid is. The point I want to make about the 6 levels is I have teachers write to me from all over the world, and here's what they say. Rafe, I love the 6 levels, but we've done it for 2 weeks and my kids aren't at level 6 yet. What am I doing wrong? If there's a theme, you know, she was talking about my persistence, but there's another theme in this book. The motto of my classroom is there are no shortcuts. This is a fast food society. We want instant coffee and instant movies. I have never found anything instantly that would to develop excellence. I think it takes many years to be a great gardener or painter or to run a bookstore or to be a great teacher. One of my complaints with Teach for America, and I have Teach for America in my room all the time, they're great kids, a lot of good kids, but come on, 5 weeks of training and you're ready to teach? I've never seen that work. You know, the joke about Wendy Cobb, because she's leaving Teach for America, is the joke is she's going to start a new organization called Surgery for America. 5 weeks of training, and you're going to be a surgeon. I'd like to ask, who here has been teaching more than 10 years? How long do you think it took you to even have a clue of what you were trying to do? Dave, how long did it take you to even have a clue of what you were trying to do with the class? How many years?
It's still a work in progress.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a real, you know, and you're still making mistakes, you're trying to get better. So with the 6 levels, yes, I introduce them. Yes, we talk about them all the time. But there's no moment when the kid said, I've reached level 3. I've reached it. It doesn't work that way. It's just a conversation. But the key of it is to get the kids to look at themselves and to start behaving because it's what they believe, not because it's what I believe. I've seen some so-called celebrity teachers, and the kids always start their sentences with, well, Rafe says, well, according to Rafe, my kids don't give a crap about what I say, and that's a good thing. The 6 levels makes the kids look inward. When people ask me about school uniforms, I'm not against school uniforms, but that's the outside of the kid. I'm worried about the inside of the kid. That's how I think we make a real difference. I hope that answers. And also, I have cards which you can take later. If you want to have long conversations, anybody who knows me, you write me or call me, I will contact you back within 24 hours. We can talk about this ad nauseum. Anything else in anybody's mind? Well, if that, oh yes, last one, yes.
Not familiar with the 6 levels, so which of your
6
prior
levels
books-
is written about in Teach Like Your Hair is on Fire.
Okay.
And when I was a young teacher, and my thinking was, do this because I'm your teacher, do this because I say so, do this because I'm smarter than you and older than you and wiser than you. I was such an idiot. Yeah, I see you now. Come on, we've all been there. The 6 levels really helped create a foundation in my class of enormous trust. People who come into my classroom, you can feel it. There is a physical presence of goodness and integrity in those children. That, well, the best line ever, if you know who Ian McKellen is, Ian McKellen is our biggest supporter, and his line about my class, because he comes there all the time, and he came there before he was Gandalf. When he was simply a great Shakespearean actor. Ian said he always cries when he comes to room 56. It's happiness, but it's also regret about all the children in the world not receiving this kind of education. It is a tragic room. And for those of you, the last joke of the day, for those of you, there's a joke in this book who are frustrated. Who's a frustrated teacher? Anybody remember Katharine Graham from the Washington Post?
Yes.
Her son, Bill Graham, who's an eccentric billionaire, is a big supporter of mine, but he once spent 60 hours with me to really see the life of a classroom teacher. He saw all the crazy parents, and there are crazy parents, right? There are. Most parents are great, but there's some that are not golden drops of sunshine. And he saw the staff meetings I go to and the difficult colleagues I have with kids. And he told me, Rafe, at the end of the week, I now know your greatest accomplishment. It's not that you're the world's best teacher, and he said you probably are, but your greatest accomplishment is that in 30 years, you haven't killed somebody yet. And he said, how do you walk around your school with a pleasant personality, smiling at people that I wanted to kill? And the answer is, and this goes back to the 6 levels, because the students are watching me. And the first rule of teaching, we must be the people we want the kids to be. I want my kids to be nice. I gotta be the nicest guy they ever met, even on days when I want to throw them out the window. I want my kids to work hard. It can't be by lecture. It must be by example. Okay, I have a dear friend here, Bonnie, who's the agent who makes these books possible. And Bonnie's known me for a long time, and I think Bonnie would agree, I work hard. I take my work very seriously. I'm the first teacher there in the morning. I'm the last one to go home. In 3 days after this book tour, my class, this is really cool, gets to pilot their own steamboat down the Mississippi River out of Hannibal because they read Mark Twain, and we've decided to make it a real experience for them because I'm a real teacher. Thank you for being here today, and I'll be happy to talk to you later also. Thank you.
What an afternoon. Thank you all so much for being part of this and for all of our teachers that are here. I just am so excited for the students you're teaching in the fall. Rafe will sign books, and Karen and I will help you get them ready, and I hope you'll think about all the wonderful colleagues who you might share this book with. Thank you.
One last thing, you got me thinking about something that I should point out. Here's a conversation I have with my students every year. That's okay.
Okay. He's a teacher, he doesn't need a mic.
I'm in Los Angeles, where Kobe Bryant is a hero. And he's not. And I had this talk with my kids. Kobe Bryant is a phenomenal basketball player, one of the best ever. He also beat up a woman in a hotel room, has cheated on his wife hundreds of times, and his teammates despise him. They don't even want to play with him. He is not a hero. Heroes are in this room. Heroes go into classrooms every day and try to make kids' lives better. That's a conversation I have with my students every year. And they take down their Kobe Bryant pictures and start putting up pictures of their moms and their teachers and people who make a difference in their lives. Maybe part of our conversation has to be is what is a hero? Because I'm looking at a whole bunch of them today. Thank you for your question.